One of the main problems of Kenya is the huge difference between social classes. And if we want to create stability in a society, we need to enlarge the middle class. And one of the aims is to move a lot of people from lower income to middle income to create a stability so that they can, in the long run, invest on education. When they get proper education and they see the good input of the education, that, okay, I get formation, training, that helps me to create income, they will start valuing and respecting education.
And I know you have these whole grain, baguette, half baguettes. Some of them have sweet.
Education is our topic today. Providencia Limited and Inter-cultur together are Finnish organizations involved with education programs in Bolivia, Lebanon and Kenya. Their expertise gives us an idea on what kind of education young people are benefiting, for instance in Kenya, and how this education will impact in the long run Kenyan society. However, it's not an easy job, as there are several obstacles. My name is Thierry Francis Mbabane, and Santi Martinez is our guest today.
I was born in Barcelona, Catalonia, and I came to Finland in 1991, having a master's degree from Helsinki University on international relations, and then also an MBA from the old Helsinki School of Economics, nowadays Aalto University Business School. I do teach at several universities, and I have a company on leadership training called Providencia Limited, and as very close to my heart as well, I do cooperate with Inter-cultur ry, an Finnish NGO that fosters educational cultural programs, and among other things is also organizes development cooperation activities. Nowadays we do have 3 projects in Kenya, Lebanon and Bolivia. Mm-hmm. And I'm running those development cooperation projects in Inter-cultur.
For this program, we are very concerned with the activities in Kenya. What exactly you do in Kenya and for how long?
Good. Well, for how long? We have been cooperating with Strathmore Foundation for several years. Our cooperation goes back to, I would say, 2010, when we started our relationship and our negotiations and everything, our cooperation. More concretely, we since 2012 we are having a project with Iceland's College of Technology, on which is a focus on developing working skills for both youth entrepreneurship, the famous Uakali in Kenya, so that it will give them further training in order to institutionalize their professional activities in Nairobi. Why Kenya? Well, the first question is why not? We all know that it's a country that is developing. There is a lot of potential. We also, with the activities of Inter-cultur, focus on educational programs. That's one common characteristic to all our development cooperation projects, both in also Bolivia and Lebanon. And then we, through, like this often happens, personal contacts and so on, we found this wonderful partner, Strathmore Foundation, and through Strathmore, the Iceland's College of Technology, that offer us also to work there within the field of education. And thus we started talking with them, and we eventually ended up having this common project on education in Nairobi. Then we can go on talking about this project, why, and what do we find useful and very interesting within this project as well.
And the idea, how did it born? How did you come to know that Kenya would be a potential?
First of all, we wanted to have a project in Africa. As I said, we have in South America, we have also in the Near East and the Mediterranean area. So we wanted to have one project in Africa due to, language issues. Should be English-speaking Africa rather than French-speaking Africa because, personally, I don't know French. So that's one understandable reason. And then why Kenya? Well, there is a long tradition of Finnish NGOs working in Kenya as well. So this would also help us to have also contacts there as well. That's one of the things. Then Kenya offers a lot of potential for development and also offers already, let's say, a structure on which we can build. That's one thing. And then the second thing is that the partner happened to be Kenyan. So we didn't necessarily go for Kenya, but just this partner happened to be from Kenya. Then we started talking and the project that they exposed to us was very appealing. As I said, education. It's aimed at solving a very particular problem, which is young and adult men in Kenya, in the cities, which, as you know as well as I do, in the countryside we can find poverty, but in the cities we find misery. And we have to tackle this issue first, because the problems of drugs, the problems of crime are born in the cities rather than in the countryside. And when you have a population like many countries in Africa, but let's talk about Kenya, where there is a huge young population in Kenya. And among this huge young population, there is a lot of young male in the cities, talking now about Nairobi, who have no education. And this is why we were thinking, we have to tackle this issue, because otherwise we have there a potential for disorder, for crime, for drugs, and for everything. So let's offer education, vocational education, so that a lot of people can start having more or less regular business, who can maintain their families, and so on and so on and so on. We also did have a project in Kenya for girls that has finished with Kianda Foundation, offering catering education for girls, finished. And now we are working on this project in Eastlands in Nairobi for men.
Kenya is located in eastern part of Africa. According to UNESCO, Kenyan population is approximately 46,050,000 people. Half of it are young people under 24 years old. Until 2012, 955,985 children were out of school. In 2015, 5.27% of GDP, as well as 16.47% of total government expenditure were spent on education. And in the same year, literacy rate was 85.9% for young people aged between 15 and 24 years old.
You've mentioned already about the needs which were there at a specific time and how you addressed those needs. But I would like to hear much more about the outcome.
Right. The project, is still going on. The official aid from the Finnish Foreign Ministry has finished. We do, through private funding, we do help and we do support the project, which actually has no end. I mean, our project had a very clear beginning, a very clear end, with clear objectives. But as a college of vocational education, it goes on. The outcome is that we have hundreds of youngsters who go through vocational education on electronics, on computing, on professional English. It aimed at two different target groups. One is young people who finished elementary school or high school but didn't make it to university, didn't make it to other kind of vocational schools, so they were left in the street. So the project aims at offering to these young people education. And then there is another target group, which is already working professionals, older people in their late 20s, 30s, 40s, who have been working on a very, basic basis to offer them further education, to foster their businesses in the streets, so that they can distinguish their own economy from family economy, from the business economy, finances, and then eventually offer another workplace for another Yuakali, for a younger guy. So we have been creating, I wouldn't say hundreds yet, but tens of new working places for Yuakalis who have been able to employ another person. And also we have been training hundreds of young people who eventually have started a new job, a new company, or have been employed by other people. This is the outcome.
There is a booming informal business sector in Kenya of small-scale traders known as Juakali. These are people who mostly operate from roadside in small wooden shelter kiosk under a very hot weather. According to the Kenyan government, the 2014 economic survey indicated that 80% of 800,000 jobs created in 2014 were in the formal sector. Kenyan Revenue Authority also supports the economic survey report by stating that small and medium firms absorb up to 50% of new non-farm employment seekers and have an employment growth rate of 12 to 14% annually.
When you look at this outcome, and Juakali in general, because it's a very big business in Kenya, how do you see the impact within the society?
In different ways. First of all, as you probably know, the Juakali amount, is it about, this informal economy, 30% of the GDP in Kenya. So the more you make it formal, which is eventually the final end, also the more income will come in tax-wise and everything to the government, which will be spread over the whole economy. One thing is to regularize their economy. That's one thing. Second, we're talking about individuals, singular individuals, but eventually they have a family. They get married. They have children. A family who has a regular income. If we are able to raise their income from, let's say, 250 euros a month to 500 euros a month, one of the main problems of Kenya is the huge difference between social classes. And if we want to create a stability in a society, we need to enlarge the middle class. And one of the aims is to move a lot of people from lower income to middle income, to create a stability, so that they can, in the long run, invest on education, again, for themselves and for their children. When they get proper education and they see the good input of the education, that okay, I get formation, training that helps me to create income, they will start valuing and respecting education. Because we're talking about some people who eventually, obviously, as education, basic education is free and compulsory in Kenya, they have to go to schools and they don't see much value in it. Because they don't know, they can't see how they can make a living out of it. But when they receive education, which eventually will mean income for them, they start respecting education. This is a long-term impact, but this is all obviously what we're aiming at. And they will respect working well. And this is one of the main things we need in Kenya and in all the developing countries, to respect quality of work.
Now the question is, we are talking about young men.
Yes.
Women are not included.
Not in this particular project. They're not excluded, but in the sense, we're aiming at men because we consider that there is a special risk that men face, which women do not.
Can you discuss a little bit about those risks?
Yes. The risk is especially drugs, crime, and now we are having elections in Kenya during this year. We all hope that we don't have to go through the crisis that went some years ago in some previous elections. All those demonstrations, mass killing, more than 1,000 people were killed in the aftermath of the previous presidential elections.
2008,
right? Actually 2 elections ago. All those were arranged by men. This is what happens when you have idle men who have nothing to lose. So this is a special risk that these people face. If you give to these people a decent job and a salary and a family to take care of, they wouldn't go and take that risk. And this is what, among other things, we want to tackle. There is another thing, which is, if we think of equality, there are many, many more projects that aim at women. So if we have one project, as I said, we have one-on-one, that aims only at men, it's not such a big thing. Actually, I think they deserve it as well. The project in Lebanon, women. The project in Bolivia, women. Talking now about intercultural activities in development cooperation projects. But this particular one aims at men because we think that they face a special risk that women do not in this particular situation.
Do you see any need at some point to also create the same idea for women?
Yes, and it exists. As I said, the other project that Intercultur was involved with Kianda Foundation was a similar school that exists for catering services. So, I would say that all kind of projects are more than welcome and more than needed that foster education, training, and not just giving things, but training people to be autonomous, to work by themselves and to earn their own living.
So let's, for ending this conversation, look at handicaps or problems that you faced with this kind of project, and what kind of solutions you put on those problems. I know already the cut of funds and everything, it affects a lot the cooperation development projects.
Yeah.
So in your case, what are the problems, what are the solutions?
Right. Well, regarding the cut of funds from the ministry, frankly speaking, obviously it's a challenge, but I wouldn't blame. A project shouldn't, let's say, stop succeeding because of that. Then we should look at the society as a whole. And I think that through private funding, we should be able to couple to overcome these challenges of a lack of public funding. That's one thing. But let me talk about the challenges that we find on the spot in Kenya. One of them, the typical one, is local corruption, which exists. For example, a particular case, the Islands, I don't know whether you know where Islands is. It's not properly a slum, but it's one of the poorest areas in Nairobi, where our project takes place near the railway. And the Islands College of Technology was
sold by a very good price, client-friendly price, a piece of land, a plot of land. Part of it has been taken by somewhere else, and still they haven't been able to get it back because of local corruption in the local administration. They are waiting for a bribe, and we do go through bribes. So, that's something that now is taking a longer amount of time than expected to get that plot of land back, which belongs to us, to our partner. That's one thing, corruption at the local level. The second thing, we have to sometimes struggle to convince the final beneficiaries of the usefulness of the training. I understand for a person who has to struggle to get a living every day, it is difficult to see how a course that will take several months will benefit him if he cannot think of what I'm going to eat in 2 days. And especially because our courses cost a bit of money. Not much. But through a small fee, we guarantee that the people who start the course will finish it. And actually experience tells us, statistics tells us, that the commitment is higher when they pay a bit. But obviously the threshold is a bit higher to come. So this is one challenge that we find. And then there is a third challenge, which is something I have already mentioned or referred to, which is people, final beneficiaries, they have to learn to respect good work. We foster very much, we emphasize very much good quality at work, whatever they do. And we insist on it. This part of, let's say, of the final output we want to get is that people end up working very well. Because eventually this is the best investment you can do, to get trained to work very well, and then you will eventually make a living in the long run. And people don't understand that necessarily. So that's one of the main challenges, that people really get the message. We don't do it just because I want a particular person to get an extra Kenyan shilling. No, I want him to learn to work very well and to eventually spread this message to further generations. The quality of good work.
How do you bring them to understand that? Is it through a kind of awareness, or do you have any kind of techniques, tools that you use to bring these guys to understand
we follow
this?
their learning very closely through mentoring. We listen to them in order to understand, okay, why doesn't understand? We have to, first of all, understand why they don't understand and what they do understand by good work. Because my understanding of good quality might not be the same as their understanding of good quality. So first of all, we have to find a match by listening, by be very close to them when we train them, when we work with them. And after that, to offer them a model. Listen, I want this. And unless the outcome, the result of their work is very close to what I want, they keep on trying again. And this requires patience with themselves, with ourselves as well. And one thing, a lot of love. Because we are working with people who happen to have some needs that I've been, let's say, lucky or grateful enough that I'm not in their situation, but they are people. And I want them to become, to eventually find all the requirements they have to flourish and succeed. And working well is one of the main requirements, so that they find, let's say, their dignity back. I have to tell you that one of the things I learn whenever I go to Kenya, and I go often, is I find their dignity among people that I haven't found in many places in Europe. The sense of self-dignity and self-respect in different people. And I want this to be found in every single person who takes part in our projects. And we have to do that, working with everyone. Every person for me is a diamond. And we have to shape it in the way he wants. And we have to polish it by taking a personal approach to every one of them.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.